Today I want to talk about and clear up a misconception that child psychology is all about working with children. A really big part of what we do is working with parents, and I know sometimes that seems like it doesn't make sense. So I wanted to talk about that today and explain why parents are really key in making changes for kids, and why, as a child psychologist, I always want to partner with parents to make change for their kids and their families. I know when parents see a child psychologist, often they're thinking, I'm out of my depth here, I don't know exactly what to do, so you take my child and teach them what they need to know, and that's going to be the best outcome. But I want to explain today that it's you, parents. Parents are the change makers when it comes to lasting changes and skill development for their kids. Sometimes I think there's a misconception that if a child psychologist wants to work with you as parents, that there's something wrong, that maybe it's the parents who are the problem and you're going to get the blame. But that's not the case. And I want to run through 5 key reasons today about why that's not the case and why child psychologists want to work with parents. I think this is the basis of all that I'm trying to do at the moment by sharing psychology information with parents. And this is going to underpin the rest of the podcast series and also help you know why you're so important in all of the things that you want your child to understand, learn, grow, develop into. So the first reason I think parents are the change makers is because you know your child. That seems like a really obvious point, but it can't be underestimated. I was talking to a friend recently who went to see somebody for advice about her son and was given really clear, direct advice. It was directions, really, in terms of what she should do to help her son. And it seemed to just not fit for her. But rather than discounting the advice, she started thinking maybe she'd been doing it wrong all of these years. And so I want to let all parents know that the best advice we can give still needs to fit for your child. You know them the best, you know what is going to work, and maybe sometimes you have to give things a try that you're not convinced about yet, but you do really know your child and what they need. The other part of that is that you know yourself. You know as a parent what you have capacity to do and what you don't have capacity to do. And you also know your family, because often the child that you're asking for help for is not the only one in the family. So you need to be assessing your family's capabilities as a whole. And so only you will know how much you can take on to try to change as a parent. And if you can't do it all, what your priorities are. So you're the expert in your child, yourself, and your family. The second thing I want to say is that you are there all the time. Psychologists can give advice, and I'm not discounting it, it's very helpful, but we are not the ones that are there. So for an hour a week or an hour a fortnight, we can teach things to your child and even you as parents, but the best impact is going to happen in the rest of the week. I don't even know how many hours that is when you're not with the psychologist. So that's why we want to work with parents, because you can practice the skills a child's learned. You can put them into place or encourage them in real-time situations. And you have information about why they worked and why they didn't work. So then we can refine that as we go along. The third reason is that it's easier for you. That means it's going to be easier for you to change some of your behaviors than it's going to be for your child to change theirs. I know that's a big one, and sometimes we would really rather the other person change. But if you think about how hard it is to change a behavior or a habit in adulthood, we know it's not easy. If you've ever tried to, do more exercise, drink all your water each day, not eat as much sugar, that kind of thing. We know it's really hard. It's not easy to change how we do things. And so if we think about how hard it is as a fully grown, developed adult with heaps of skills, then think about how much harder it is for a child who's still learning and developing a lot of these things. So sometimes you'll need to pick your battles and start out by changing what you're doing until your child has learned some of the skills they need to be doing things differently. Okay, my fourth reason is that I think when you are coming as a parent and learning things about your child, their difficulties, and what strategies are going to be helpful, it gives you a really good understanding of where your child is at. That understanding is really powerful for two reasons. One is that it's going to give you a lot more empathy for your child. You're going to understand why they're doing what they're doing and why certain situations are so difficult for them. The second thing is that understanding flows through to patience. We can be a lot more patient with our kids when we understand why things are difficult for them, why they're hard. So recently I talked with a mother who's had this realization herself. Her son really struggled with attention during homework. Once she understood that it wasn't him just preferring to do enjoyable activities and, mucking around procrastinating, once she understood it as difficulty maintaining attention, she was a lot more patient with him, and she noticed a difference in her own emotions as well. So she wasn't getting as annoyed so quickly. So by understanding your child and what they need, it increases your empathy, your patience, and sometimes limits your frustrations. The fifth reason I think it's really important that parents are involved in child psychology when their kids need help is that they can understand what is contributing to the difficulties a child's having. So kids are different to adults in that they have a lot less control over their life. They, when they're quite young, depend on us for their survival. As they get bigger, they become more independent, but they still really rely on what's going on around them, the people who help them. And so by understanding child psychology information yourself, you can understand what might be contributing to the difficulties your child has and what might be maintaining the challenges despite everybody's best efforts to make change. So your perspective about what's contributing to and keeping the challenges there is another really important part of why parents are going to be the ones who make the biggest change for their kids. So I can hear what you're saying. I can hear what you're thinking. You're thinking, but they don't listen to me. They'll listen to you. And this is something I hear a lot from parents. I agree, because I know my own children listen to other people sometimes when they don't listen to me. But on the flip side of that, so I can understand why you think then information from a child psychologist is going to be better. Sometimes kids do listen more and they behave better for other people. And so often in my sessions with kids, they are a delight. And their parents say, yeah, for you. And that's totally normal. My kids are like that as well. I think most kids are. So they might listen to me in the session, and I agree with that. The flip side is that if you've ever had your kids listen for other people and not for you, you know that it's something that they can turn on and turn off, which means they might be saying to me, yes, I understand. Yes, I can do that deep breathing strategy. I will practice it. But then when they go home, you have a different experience. So for me, the difference is that they'll put it into the place in the room with me, but when they get home, I know that's something they're finding a lot harder to do. So you're noticing as parents that your kids don't always listen to you. I'm noticing as a psychologist that they'll listen to me, but not always put stuff into practice at home. So that's a perfect example of why we've got to partner together to get the best outcome for your kids. So they can listen to me, but also you can help them practice at home. As we go along, I will be making some videos of some of the strategies that I talk about, like deep breathing, muscle relaxation, and all of that kind of stuff, so that perhaps your kids can listen to that and you can have the benefit of, getting them to listen to somebody who's not you. But then by you learning the strategies and being able to help and support them at home, you'll get the best outcome for your kids. So I'm really excited to see where all of this goes. If you have particular concerns or questions, please email me at hello@leannetran.com.au, because often what I find is parents really like advice, but they like practical suggestions and examples. And so if you can send in some questions, I can give some really practical, clear to understand examples for you, but also for everybody else. So please get in touch. I can't wait to hear from you. Thanks for listening to this episode of Parent Like a Psychologist. If you found it helpful, please share on Instagram so other parents can benefit too, and tag me at Leanne Tran Psychology so that I can say a big thank you. Head over to leannetran.com.au to join the village for bite-sized psychology tips straight to your inbox. I really hope this podcast has brought a new perspective and you a step closer towards a calm parent and a thriving child. Have a delightful day.